Imagine you are walking through a world that feels increasingly disconnected. You scroll through endless feeds, you rush from one task to the next, and sometimes, in the quiet moments, you feel a strange sense of being untethered, like a balloon slowly drifting away, with no string to hold it down. This feeling, this modern ache of alienation, is something the French philosopher and mystic Simone Weil understood deeply. She believed that the cure for this profound loneliness wasn't something we could find alone, but something we had to find together, in community. Her powerful idea, which we can explore, is that we need to be rooted in something real and collective to feel truly whole. You probably recognize that stubborn feeling of being right, that immediate certainty that your view of a situation is the only sensible one. We all have it. It is our first instinct, our gut reaction. It is the part of us that forms an opinion in a split second and then holds onto it for dear life. Think about the last time you had a disagreement. That initial surge of, "but I'm obviously correct," is that instinctive thinking at work. It is fast, it is proud, and it loves to be in charge. But Simone Weil would ask us to gently question that voice. She saw this kind of thinking as a surface-level activity, one that often keeps us trapped in our own isolated bubbles, cut off from a deeper, more meaningful connection to the world and to each other. This is where a deeper kind of awareness comes in. It is slower, quieter, and much more humble. It is the part of you that can pause and genuinely consider another perspective. It is the willingness to say, "Wait, maybe I don't have the full picture here." This tension is natural. Our fast, instinctive mind wants to protect us and keep us safe in our familiar ideas, while our deeper awareness invites us to step into a place of uncertainty, which can feel vulnerable, but is ultimately where real growth happens. Many of us cling to familiar ideas because they feel like a safe harbor in a confusing world. Letting go of them can feel like setting sail into open water without a map. Remember when you were a child and you believed something with your whole heart, only to have that belief gently corrected? Maybe you were sure that a certain kind of tree was called one name, and then you learned its real name. That moment of adjustment, that slight shift in your understanding, did not break you. It expanded your world. It added a new piece to the puzzle of how things work. Simone Weil asks us to embrace that same openness as adults, especially in our social and political lives. She argued that this humble attention is a form of love, a way of connecting to truth that goes beyond our selfish desires to be right. She wrote that attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity. This generosity isn't about giving money or things. It is about giving your full, undistracted presence to something outside of yourself. It is the act of truly listening to a friend without planning your response, or of observing the world without immediately judging it. We all fool ourselves sometimes. We construct narratives where we are the hero or the victim, and we ignore any evidence that complicates that story. We do this because it is easier. It is less work for the brain. But this self-deception is a primary source of that feeling of alienation. When we are trapped inside our own self-justifying stories, we are the most alone. It is like living in a house of mirrors where every reflection is a slightly distorted version of yourself. You lose contact with what is real and true outside of you. Community, in Weil's view, is what shatters those mirrors. It is not just about being physically around other people. It is about creating bonds where this generous attention can flourish, where we can help each other see our blind spots and gently guide one another toward a more shared truth. This is why rootedness was so vital to her. To be rooted is to belong to a place, a tradition, a group of people, to be part of something that is bigger than your individual ego. It provides the nourishment that our souls crave, the antidote to the feeling of floating aimlessly through life. In a true community, We are invited to move past our instinctive, ego-driven thoughts and into that space of collective understanding and care. It is a practice, something we have to work at every day, to listen more and assume less. This cracks open the entire problem Weil is trying to solve. We start our lives and our journey into any new idea, seeing the world in a very simple, straightforward way. Things are good or bad, right or wrong, for us or against us. Our initial reactions are pure and instinctive, like a child reaching for a shiny object or pulling their hand from a flame. In this phase, our need for belonging feels simple too. We gravitate towards people who are like us, who confirm our existing views, and this feels like community. It is comfortable and requires very little from us. We are rooted, but it is a shallow rooting, like a plant in a small pot that looks fine until the first strong wind. But then life happens, and we enter the inevitable, confusing middle phase. This is when things get profoundly complicated. You get a new job that excites you, but also intimidates you. A close friendship hits a rough patch over a political disagreement. You achieve a goal you've worked for, only to feel a strange emptiness instead of triumph. Most of us feel uneasy during transitions like these, when the old rules don't seem to apply anymore. Simone Weil would say this period of disorientation is not a sign of failure, but a necessary and even sacred suffering. It is the weight of gravity, the force that pulls us downward, making every step forward a conscious effort. This gravity is the price of reality. It is the friction that comes from engaging with a world that is complex, messy, and refuses to conform to our simple childhood maps. You might be someone who resists change at first, wanting to retreat to the comfort of the simple phase, and that is a completely natural reaction. It is in this tough middle ground that Weil's crucial contrast plays out. We have a choice between knee-jerk reactions and thoughtful responses. The knee-jerk reaction is to seek an escape from this gravitational weight. We might numb the discomfort with distraction, retreat into an echo chamber of people who only agree with us, or double down on our old, simple beliefs with even more rigidity. This is the pursuit of false roots, seeking attachment to things that are light and easy, like nationalistic pride or consumer identity, which give a quick hit of belonging, but cannot truly hold us when the storms come. They are roots made of paper. The alternative, the thoughtful response, is to consent to the weight. It is to accept the confusion and the unease, not as a problem to be solved, but as a reality to be lived through. This is where we start noticing a subtle shift in ourselves. You may catch yourself pausing before reacting lately. Instead of immediately dismissing an opposing viewpoint, you might feel a flicker of curiosity about where it comes from. Instead of seeking to blame someone for a problem, you might feel a pull to understand the system that created it. This pause, that moment of restraint, is the beginning of true attention. It is the muscle we must build to handle gravity. And this arduous work in the middle phase is what leads to the new clarity. This isn't a return to the simple, naive certainty of the beginning. It is something richer and far more resilient. It is the clarity that comes from having endured complexity and not broken. By practicing attention, by consistently choosing the thoughtful response over the knee-jerk reaction, we begin to forge genuine roots. We discover that real community isn't about finding people who are identical to us. It is the slow, careful building of bonds with others who are also consenting to the weight of reality, who are also practicing attention. We find roots in a shared commitment to truth and to each other's well-being, even amidst disagreement. This rootedness feels different. It is less about feeling good all the time, and more about feeling real, feeling connected to something substantial that lies beneath the surface chaos of daily life. The alienation begins to lift, not because the world becomes simple again, but because we have built the inner capacity to meet its complexity without fracturing. We are no longer isolated atoms reacting to stimuli. We become part of a network of mutual support, held by the deep, strong roots of a community that understands belonging as an active verb, something we do for each other through patient, loving attention. Through this discomfort, we begin to realize that the tightness we feel isn't a cage, but a chrysalis. It's the necessary pressure that forces us to grow, to push against the edges of what we thought we knew about ourselves. That initial feeling of being lost, of not recognizing the person in the mirror, is actually the first sign of a profound and welcome change. It's the old shell cracking to make way for the new. This process isn't about discarding who we were, but about integrating those experiences into a more complete, more authentic version of ourselves. We start to see that every moment of confusion was actually a moment of reorientation, a subtle, internal compass recalibrating to a truer north. As we sit with this feeling, we might notice a curious shift in our daily lives. You'll likely find daily decisions coming easier. What to wear, what to eat, which task to tackle first. These small choices that once might have induced a surprising amount of anxiety or indecision begin to flow with a new sense of clarity. It's not that the decisions themselves have changed. It's that the person making them has. The static of external expectations and the noise of who we thought we should be starts to fade, allowing the clearer signal of our own genuine preferences and values to come through. We're less often choosing what we believe will please someone else or fit a certain image, and more often choosing what simply feels right for us in that moment. This is one of the first tangible fruits of this inner work, a quiet liberation in the mundane. This newfound ease often extends into our emotional world as well. Many notice old frustrations don't bother them as much. The driver who cuts us off, the long line at the grocery store, the minor criticism from a coworker. These daily irritants begin to lose their power to derail our mood. It's as if we've developed a new layer of emotional resilience, not because we're trying harder to be patient, but because our perspective has fundamentally softened and expanded. We see these events for what they are, small, fleeting moments in a vast and complex life, rather than personal affronts or signs that the universe is against us. This isn't about becoming passive or indifferent. It's about conserving our emotional energy for the things that truly matter, for the deep connections and meaningful pursuits that fuel our souls. This journey inward, as we're discovering, is less about finding a single, dramatic answer, and more about learning to ask better questions. Instead of, "What is wrong with me?" we learn to ask, "What is this feeling trying to tell me?" Instead of, "Why does this always happen to me?" we might wonder, "What pattern here can I learn from?" This shift in inquiry changes everything. It moves us from a place of victimhood to a place of agency, from being passive passengers in our lives to taking the wheel with curiosity and compassion. We begin to understand that our emotions are not enemies to be suppressed or feared, but messengers offering valuable information about our needs, our boundaries, and our deepest desires. Learning their language is one of the most empowering skills we can cultivate. A fascinating thing happens as we practice this new way of being. We might start to see the Barnum effect at play in our rearview mirror. Those horoscopes and personality tests that once felt eerily accurate now seem charmingly vague. We recognize that their power came from our own desire to be defined, to be neatly categorized and understood. Now, having ventured into the rich, messy, and beautifully undefined territory of our true selves, we no longer need those external labels to feel solid. Our sense of identity becomes rooted not in a type or a description, but in a lived experience, a collection of authentic moments and genuine reactions. We are too complex, too dynamic, too alive to be captured by a few sentences in a magazine or the result of an online quiz. This realization is incredibly freeing. It returns the authorship of our identity squarely to us. This path isn't always linear, of course. There are days when the old patterns feel more comfortable, when the pull of the familiar is strong. There are moments of doubt where we question everything we thought we'd learned. But these moments themselves become part of the practice. They are not failures, but opportunities to exercise our new muscles of self-awareness and kindness. We learn to meet ourselves in these dips with grace, to offer ourselves the same understanding we might extend to a dear friend. This consistent, gentle return to ourselves, over and over again, is what builds unshakable inner strength. It's the practice of coming home. And as we continue, we begin to sense a new quality emerging in our relationships. When we are no longer performing a version of ourselves we believe others will approve of, we create space for truly authentic connection. We attract people who are drawn to our realness, and we naturally let go of connections that were built on a foundation of pretense. Our conversations become deeper, more meaningful. We listen better because we are not so anxiously crafting our next response. We show up more fully, not because we are trying to be good friends or partners, but because we simply have more of ourselves available to give. The energy we once spent maintaining a facade is now channeled into building genuine bonds. This entire process, from the first ache of discomfort to the dawning of a more integrated self, is ultimately about reclaiming our own narrative. It's about editing out the lines that were written for us by others, by society, by family, by past experiences, and picking up the pen ourselves. We become the authors of our own story, and while we can't control every plot twist, we have absolute agency over how we interpret and respond to them. This authorship is the bedrock of a purposeful life. It allows us to weave meaning from both our joys and our sorrows, to see our entire history not as a random series of events, but as a coherent journey that has led us exactly to where we are meant to be. Right here, more ourselves than ever before. Together, we discover that this whole, winding, sometimes challenging path leads us to a profound and simple truth, one that the philosopher Simone Weil captured with beautiful clarity. She observed that the experience of true freedom is not a loud, triumphant fanfare, but a deep, quiet, and visceral relief. It is, in her words, like finally taking off shoes that never quite fit. After years of wearing them, we had almost forgotten the constant, subtle pain, the way they pinched our toes and cramped our stride. We learned to walk carefully, to adjust our gait to accommodate the discomfort. But now, having shed them, we feel the solid ground beneath our bare feet for the first time. We can wriggle our toes, feel the grass, and take a full, unencumbered step. The relief is immense and immediate. It's not that the journey is over, but now we can walk it comfortably, freely, and wholly as ourselves, ready to explore whatever path lies ahead with a heart full of curiosity and a spirit finally at home in its own skin.